There is a kind of tire that does not announce itself. It does not crash in loudly. It settles in quietly and stays. You wake up and nothing is technically wrong. You slept. You ate. You are still moving. Yet something feels constantly heavy. Not painful. Not dramatic. Just a dull weight you carry from one day to the next. This is not the tired that comes from effort. This is the tired that comes from continuing. From showing up when your inner energy has already been spent. From being present while feeling absent. Silent exhaustion does not look like collapse. It looks like normal life. You answer messages. You do your work. You keep conversations going. And because you are still functioning, no one questions it. Sometimes not even you. You tell yourself you are just tired today. Then tomorrow comes. And the same feeling is there. So you push through it again. And again. Until pushing becomes your default state. The strange thing about silent exhaustion is that it does not ask for attention. It does not scream for rest. It simply drains you slowly. It takes your sharpness first. Then your excitement. Then your patience. You still care, but with less intensity. You still dream, but without energy behind it. You still want more from life, but the wanting feels distant. And because there is no clear reason, you struggle to explain it. You cannot point to one event, one failure, one breaking moment. So you stay quiet about it. You assume this is just how adulthood feels. You assume everyone else is carrying the same weight better than you. But this feeling has a name, and naming it matters. Silent exhaustion is what happens when pressure lasts too long without release. When responsibility stacks quietly. When emotional weight has nowhere to go. When you are strong for so long that strength turns into habit. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are not broken. You are not failing at life. You are tired in a way that does not show on the surface. And the first step is not fixing it. The first step is recognizing it. Because what stays unnamed tends to stay unhealed. And now, at least, it has a name. What makes silent exhaustion confusing is that it does not live when it should. You try to rest. You sleep longer. You take a day off. You slow down when you can. And yet, the tired feeling stays. That is because this exhaustion is not stored in the body. It lives in the mind. It comes from being mentally alert for too long. From constantly anticipating what comes next. From carrying responsibilities that do not switch off at night, even when you are resting. Your mind is still working quietly in the background. You replay conversations. You think about what you still need to do. You worry about falling behind. You plan, adjust, calculate, and prepare. None of this feels intense enough to call stress. But together, it becomes heavy. Silent exhaustion builds when pressure becomes normal. When there is no clear emergency. Just a constant demand to keep going. To be reliable. To be stable. To not drop the ball. You adapt to it. You tell yourself you can handle it. And you do. But handling is not the same as processing. The mind was not designed to hold everything indefinitely. Unspoken worries. Unexpressed emotions. Expectations you never questioned. All of it accumulates quietly. That is why rest feels ineffective. Because rest only pauses the body. It does not unload the mental weight. You can lie down, but your thoughts stay upright. You can stop moving, but your mind keeps scanning. You can disconnect physically, but internally you stay on call. This exhaustion also grows when you do not allow yourself to feel fully. When you minimize your own stress. When you say it is not that bad. When you compare your struggle to someone else's and decide yours does not count. Every time you do that, you push the weight deeper instead of letting it out. Over time, your system learns a dangerous lesson, that there is no real off switch. That relief is temporary. That tomorrow always asks for the same energy you no longer have. So the tiredness becomes permanent. Not overwhelming, just present. And because it arrives slowly, you barely noticed when it started. You only notice now that it refuses to leave. This is not a lack of discipline. This is not laziness. This is not weakness. This is what happens when mental pressure lasts longer than your capacity to release it. And understanding that changes everything. Silent exhaustion does not stop your life. It lets it continue. You wake up and follow the routine. You do what needs to be done. You respond when people speak to you. You move through the day without resistance. From the outside, nothing looks wrong. Inside, everything feels slower. Your reactions come with a delay. Your motivation feels borrowed. You rely on discipline because energy is no longer available. You are not driven. You are maintained. You get things done, but without satisfaction. Achievements feel flat. Progress feels mechanical. Even good moments pass through you without fully landing. This is what functioning on empty looks like. You are present, but not engaged. You are active, but not fueled. Conversations require effort. Decisions feel heavier than they should. Small tasks feel larger. Not because they are difficult, but because your inner reserve is low. You notice that you get irritated more easily, or numb, sometimes both. Your tolerance shrinks. Your patience wears thin. And you wonder why things that never bothered you now feel draining. You start cutting corners emotionally. You listen less deeply. You care, but from a distance. Not because you want to, but because that is all you can afford. And the most confusing part is that you are still capable. You still perform. You still meet expectations, which makes it harder to admit that something is wrong. You tell yourself you are just tired, that everyone feels like this sometimes, that you should be able to push a little more. So you do. But every push takes something from tomorrow. Every day you run on empty. The tank shrinks slightly. Not enough to stop you. Just enough to make everything feel heavier. This is not collapse. This is erosion. And erosion is dangerous because it is quiet. There is no breaking point you can point to. No single moment that explains it. Just a gradual loss of energy, presence, and emotional depth. You are still living, but you are doing it on reserve. And reserves are not meant to last forever. You do not talk about it because you do not know where to start. There is no simple sentence that explains how you feel. No clear problem to point at. No visible wound. So you stay quiet. You learn that explaining takes energy you do not have. That people listen for a moment, then rush to fix. They offer solutions before understanding. They tell you to rest, to think positive, to be grateful. And none of that touches what you are carrying. So silence becomes easier. You stop trying to translate your inner state into words. You stop checking if anyone would really understand. You decide it is simpler to handle it alone. There is also fear in that silence. Fear of being seen as weak. Fear of sounding ungrateful. Fear of hearing that this is normal and that you should just deal with it. You do not want sympathy. You do not want attention. You just want the weight to be acknowledged. And when it is not, you pull back. Over time, silence becomes a habit. You get used to being the one who is fine, the one who manages, the one who does not complain. And because you do it well, no one questions it. Your calm becomes evidence that nothing is wrong. Your functionality becomes proof that you are okay, even when you are not. So you keep going quietly. You laugh when expected. You say you are tired when asked, but never how tired. You minimize. You soften the truth until it sounds harmless. And slowly, the silence adds another layer of exhaustion. Because holding things in requires constant effort. Because pretending costs energy. Because being unseen, even unintentionally, wears you down. You are not silent because you have nothing to say. You are silent because you learn that saying it does not change much. And that kind of silence is heavy. What quietly intensifies silent exhaustion is guilt. Not loud guilt. The subtle kind that whispers constantly in the background. You tell yourself you should not feel this way. That others have it worse. that you have no real reason to be tired. So you question your own experience instead of honoring it. You look at your life from the outside and try to invalidate your feelings. You remind yourself of what you have, of what you should appreciate, and every time you do that, you push your exhaustion further underground. This guilt teaches you to distrust your own limits, to ignore signals instead of listening to them, to treat rest like something you need to earn. You feel tired, then guilty for being tired. You feel overwhelmed, then ashamed for feeling overwhelmed. It becomes a loop that drains you more than the exhaustion itself. You start comparing yourself to people who seem to handle more, who appear stronger, more motivated, more resilient, and you wonder why you are struggling when they are not. But comparison removes context. It ignores what you carry privately, what you suppress daily, what you never allowed yourself to release. Guilt convinces you that needing rest means failing, that slowing down means falling behind, that admitting exhaustion means you are not strong enough. So you push harder. You stay quiet longer. You expect more from yourself when you already have less to give. And this is where silent exhaustion becomes dangerous. Not because of the tiredness itself, but because you turn against yourself while carrying it. You stop treating yourself with fairness. You deny your own humanity. You demand performance without recovery. This guilt does not motivate you. It erodes you. And until it is recognized, it keeps the exhaustion alive. At some point, silent exhaustion changes the way you see yourself. Not suddenly, gradually. You start questioning your own capacity. You remember a version of yourself that had more drive, more clarity, more hunger, and you wonder where that person went. You assume something inside you broke, that you became weaker, less disciplined, less capable than before. But nothing broke. What you are feeling is not failure. It is the result of pressure that lasted too long without relief, of responsibility that never paused, of emotional weight that had no place to land. You did not lose strength. You spent it. You adapted to survive. You learned to function under stress. You learned to stay composed. You learned to be reliable even when it cost you internally. And because adaptation looks like confidence from the outside, nobody noticed the cost. Sometimes not even you. Silent exhaustion is what happens when strength is used continuously without recovery. When resilience becomes routine. When endurance replaces expression. When you handle things instead of feeling them. Your nervous system was never designed for permanent alertness. Your mind was never meant to carry unresolved pressure indefinitely. So it slows you down. Not to punish you, but to protect you. That loss of motivation you feel is not laziness. It is conservation. That emotional numbness is not indifference. It is overload. That constant fatigue is not weakness. It is accumulated strain. You are not failing at life. You are responding normally to abnormal levels of sustained demand. The problem is not that you cannot handle things anymore. The problem is that you have been handling too much. For too long. Without support. Without pause. Without release. And because you were able to do it, expectations stayed high. People kept leaning on you. Life kept asking. And you kept answering. Even when the internal cost grew heavier. Understanding this changes the internal dialogue. You stop attacking yourself for slowing down. You stop shaming yourself for needing rest. You stop interpreting exhaustion as a personal flaw. You begin to see it as information. Information that something needs to change. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But honestly, nothing is wrong with you. Your system is doing exactly what it is supposed to do when limits are exceeded quietly. And realizing that is not weakness. It is clarity. After carrying silent exhaustion for so long, it is tempting to look for a dramatic solution. A reset. A disappearance. A moment where everything suddenly makes sense again. But recovery does not usually arrive like that. Silent exhaustion does not ask for a new version of you. It asks for a softer relationship with the one you already are. The way forward is not about fixing yourself, because you're not broken. It is about reducing the pressure you normalize, about questioning the pace you accepted without noticing, about allowing yourself to slow down without turning it into failure. You do not need to prove anything to rest. You do not need to earn ease. You do not need to justify your limits. What you need is permission. Permission to stop performing strength. Permission to say less. Permission to step back without disappearing. Permission to feel tired without explaining it away. This does not mean giving up. It means adjusting. It means choosing sustainability over endurance. It means protecting your energy instead of constantly spending it. Healing from silent exhaustion is quiet. It happens in small decisions. In saying no when you usually say yes. In resting before you are completely drained. In letting things be unfinished without punishing yourself. There will be moments where you feel unproductive. Moments where you feel behind. Moments where you doubt this slower pace. That doubt is normal. You trained yourself for urgency. Calm will feel unfamiliar at first. But slowly, presence returns. Not as excitement, as steadiness, as clarity, as a sense of being inside your own life again. You will not wake up one day fully restored, but you will notice that the weight is lighter, that breathing feels easier, that effort feels more honest. Silent exhaustion does not end with noise. It fades with consistency, with gentleness, with respect for your limits. And that is not weakness. That is wisdom. Quietly,